Hello, and welcome to McKinney Vento Homeless Training for Enrollment Staff. The purpose of this training is to provide enrolling staff with information regarding this federal law and how you can help. Often when we think of the term homeless, we think of a similar picture such as this: no home, no money, no job, helpless, and hungry. Unfortunately, the term homeless is associated with the negative stigma, which leads families to try to hide their situation because they are ashamed and embarrassed. We encourage educators and staff to use the terms in transition, highly mobile, or McKinney Vento eligible to be sensitive to these family situations. The McKinney Vento law is both a federal and a state law. It defines the term homeless much differently than the stereotype. It defines McKinney Vento eligible children and youth to be those who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. Let's dig a little deeper into each of these three identifiers. Fixed means a residence that is stationary, permanent, and not subject to change, nor easily moved. Living in an RV or a car would not be classified as fixed since they are easily moved. So the student living in this RV would qualify as being McKinney Vento eligible. Regular. It means a residence that is used on a regular basis. If this teenager has been kicked out of his home and is couch surfing, staying with various friends, then he would be considered McKinney Vento eligible. Also, a child that makes several moves in a short period of time would also be eligible. Adequate. An adequate residence is one that is sufficient for meeting both the physical and psychological needs typically met in home environments. This would include situations of overcrowding with too many people for the square footage, homes with inadequate heating, electricity, plumbing, running water, and even bug infestations would also be eligible. If a family's home has been hit by a disaster like a fire or flood, there are no income guidelines. This family is considered McKinney Vento eligible. The families that tend to be fairly easy to identify might be sleeping in a tent or in a shelter, sleeping at a motel, or staying at any place that isn't designated for people to reside in, such as a laundromat. The families that are harder to identify are the ones that are doubled up or couch surfing. Families are often staying with friends or other family members because they cannot afford a place of their own. Teens who have left their homes for whatever reason other than educational advantage, who may be hopping from place to place or staying with a friend or relative, are unaccompanied youth and McKinney Vento eligible. Registration should be your best opportunity to identify McKinney Vento eligible students, but the questions on the registration form will determine your success, especially with online registration. Take a look at the student residency questionnaire form to determine if a student is McKinney Vento eligible. All McKinney Vento eligible students pre-K through 12th grade should be identified. It is strongly encouraged that your school district looks closely at your residency questions on your registration form, as this will help identify your McKinney Vento eligible students. Proof of residency is not required for McKinney Vento students and families to register. Enrollment documents should provide a way to enroll without all documentation such as health records, parent signatures, and proof of residency. This is especially true of online registrations. There should also be a method of automatic referral to the McKinney Vento liaison if a family or child is experiencing housing instability. This can be at any time during the school year, not just during registration. What if you still aren't sure if the family is McKinney Vento eligible? Look and listen for clues from the families. Do caregivers exhibit anger or embarrassment when asked about their current address? Do they try to avoid questions about their address? Can they not remember the name of their last school? They might say our address is new, I can't remember it. Or we're staying with relatives until we get settled. All of these are clues that the family might be McKinney Vento eligible. Ask questions respectfully and with compassion. This family may be going through a difficult time, and offering support without judgment may help make the transition more smooth. If you aren't sure if the family or student is McKinney Vento eligible, here are some questions that you might ask the family to see if their residence is fixed. Where would you go if you couldn't stay where you are? Is this a permanent arrangement or just a temporary? Are you looking for another place to live? Do you plan to move out soon? Why are you staying in your current place? Where were you living before this place? Why did you leave? Are you staying with friends or relatives for a little while? Did you and your friends or relatives decide to move in together and share a home and expenses for the long term? Or is this a temporary situation for you? Is your name on the lease? Could your friends or relatives ask you to leave if they wanted to? Are you sharing the home equally, or are you more like guests in the house? If families decide to pool their resources and share a house, they are not McKinney Vento eligible. If one family moves in with another due to economic hardship, only the family moving in would be considered McKinney Vento eligible. These questions would address whether or not a family had a regular place to stay. Do you stay in the same place every night? Do you have a key to the place? Where are you living? Do you move around a lot? How long have you been at this place? How long do you plan to stay? How long did you live at your last place? These questions address whether a home is adequate. How many people are living in the home? How many bedrooms and bathrooms does it have? Are you and your children sharing a room? How many people are staying in one room? Are you and your children sleeping in a bedroom or in a public area like a dining room? Does the home have heat, electricity, and running water? What condition is the home in? Is it safe? Is it warm and dry? Every situation is different, so pick and choose the questions that will best help you make a determination. The responsibility of identifying families and students belongs to school officials. It is not the responsibility of the families to self-identify. Many families may not know whether they fit the definition for McKinney-Vento eligibility. Eligibility can change throughout the school year, so it is important to be looking, not just during registration, but throughout the school year for all students pre-K through 12th. You've determined that the family is McKinney-Vento eligible. Now what? Here are some things that you can do. Give the caregivers printed information about the McKinney-Vento law. This can be a time of extreme stress for families and individuals. Using printed material ensures that all information is presented to families so there won't be confusion. You can use the student residency questionnaire form to gather information on the student and families. This form can be provided by your local or campus liaison. It can be filled out by the McKinney-Vento liaison, the building principal, or enrolling staff, or anyone who has the family information. Please do not hand it to the caregiver to fill out. This form is meant as a place to start a conversation between the family and enroller. Just as a reminder, you can see the residency information on the first page of this form. On the bottom of the second page is a list of other children in the household. This is another opportunity to identify siblings that may not be in your building. Check throughout your district to make sure all eligible students are identified, again, including those in early childhood and pre-K programs. So why is identifying these students important? Because we cannot serve and support these students if we don't know who they are. It is both a federal and a state law. Identifying students does affect the funding that will come to your school or district office, and that funding will in turn help support these families. Once students are identified as McKinney-Vento eligible, what is the school's responsibility? Enroll immediately, even without unnecessary enrollment documents. All fees must be waived. Students must get free lunch and breakfast, ensure access to all services, including Title I services, sports, and extracurricular activities. Connect students to services they might need, such as tutoring and counseling. Provide transportation to school of origin if requested by a caregiver, and assist the family getting all the necessary paperwork. Preschool-age children get priority placement in preschool programs. Assist high schoolers to make sure they are on track for graduation, and assist older students with college and career goals. The goal is to remove all barriers to education created by homelessness. What are the caregiver and student's rights? The student is allowed to attend the school of origin, which is the school the child or youth was attending when he or she became McKinney-Vento eligible, or the student may attend the school district in which he or she is now residing. School officials can have discussions with caregivers on what is in the best interest of the child. However, ultimately, it is the caregiver's choice where the child attends. Here are some noteworthy facts to keep in mind. Custody does not need to be awarded by the court for enrollment. Parents do not need to sign guardianship documents for the student to be enrolled. An unaccompanied youth can register without a parent. Once a student is McKinney-Vento eligible, they remain identified as McKinney-Vento eligible for the entire school year, even if they obtain a fixed, regular, and adequate residence during the year. A student's McKinney-Vento eligibility status must be treated as a confidential school record as FERPA laws apply. In closing, it is important to remember when a child's world is turned upside down, the only stable thing they may have left is school. We want to provide a nurturing and supportive environment for the student. If you have any questions, please contact your local school liaison at 830-643-5736 or safe-t@mbisd.org.